Jarren is newer to the voice acting world and has already made some incredible accomplishments. At the beginning, the idea of voice acting seemed silly to him, but because of his passion for video games and anime, he took a chance on it. Jarren and I are talking about nuanced performances, being resourceful on a budget, the value of friendships, and trying new things like motion capture. Thanks for watching. Tell me who you are and how you got involved in voice acting.
I am Jarren VA or Jarren James Daquipil, which is my real name. I have to get used to saying my real name because I have actually gone pro recently because I got signed to a talent agency. I got into voice acting because I used to do theater in school and surprisingly got really good grades all around, even though I didn't really try. And then my friends were like, "Hey, Jay, you should try out some acting or voice acting. We know you like anime and games, so why not?" To me, it was a joke. It was a funny joke, and then that joke became serious when I got into college, and I was like, "Wait, I feel kind of sad. I want to do something for fun." So I ended up falling down this big rabbit hole of voice acting, and I went, I kind of want to pursue this. This is kind of cool. Mainly because I'm big on games, big on anime since I was like 5 years old. So it's been the main medium, and being a part of that and being where I am now is such a huge blessing.
You've been doing this for less than a year, but what lessons have you learned in that time about voice acting? Is there any way that you've found that you've grown in doing it in those couple months?
Fuel the fire in yourself in the sense of find people that also appreciate this art. I remember my first role ever I booked. I got so close to the people, the voice actors that still work with me today. And because of that, we could build off each other. We have good performances because we have the natural chemistry. Not only that, but they recommend me to things. I could recommend them to things. It's this whole give and take thing, but it's in a good way, right? Because we're all growing together. So that's one thing I learned. Networking is super important. Fueling the fire, as in just consume what you love and then appreciate it. Whenever I play games now, or whenever I watch shows, anime, TV, whatever, now I have a different appreciation for the acting in and of itself, rather than just going, that guy has a cool power. Another thing I learned is that throughout these scripts, they're very complex, and also the characters have emotions that are always hidden. There's sometimes going to be a character where he's super happy, but he uses this happiness to mask the sadness, right? So you have to also tackle that nuance because it's not always happy. It's always nuanced when it comes to performances. And that's something I had to learn, mainly because my performances at the first, they're super one-dimensional.
Where have you met your voice acting friends?
Mainly through projects that I booked on Casting Call Club, which a lot of people do. And I always hear this thing where it's like, oh, the project didn't go anywhere. Oh, the project got canceled. But in my mind, I'm like, you got to take advantage of everything you got. Because I'm very resourceful. For example, like everything I've done, my budget was $200 and I've gotten here. That was literally it. So I'm as a person who's very resourceful, I also take into account that if the project gets canceled, there's still some talented voice actors in there that are probably cool, but they're trying to also climb the ladder, right? So it's like, why not, talk to them? If ever a project needs a voice actor, I could recommend them because I know them more, right? I've done a lot of networking in that sense, and it's honestly really fun because sometimes it's not even about voice acting. We'd play games for like 5 hours straight, and we'd be like, oh wait, we're voice actors. I completely forgot. That solidarity is really what makes me happy that I fell into this space, because I've met a lot of friends who, weirdly enough, feel like lifelong friends, not only because they share the same passion, but also it's because we could create together. Most projects, you need multiple people to create, so why are you going to isolate yourself and work by yourself? No. You need people to help you, and that goes vice versa, right? Especially since voice acting in of itself is very subjective. You can't really tell your own performance if someone doesn't tell you, right? If it's good.
What are some of your best budgeting tips for voice acting?
If you can't afford an XLR microphone, which it makes complete sense, USB is fine as long as you get started and as long as you put yourself out there on the map. If you're not going to do it, you're going to regret it more than actually spending the $50 for like a USB microphone. I had $200 saved up from my previous job. I was like, that's perfect for an XLR microphone and a interface. Then I said, okay. I didn't have soundproofing at the time, by the way, so I just used a bunch of blankets. Use what you have on you that works, and if it works fine, then keep going with it. If you keep going at it, you're gonna get money from it back, because I've gotten gigs where you get paid, and that money I just reinvested back into my booth. So my booth at some point was just a closet with a bunch of blankets and pillows everywhere. Now I got like a decent amount of foam, purely off of the gigs that I've booked personally. Again, everyone has a different way of doing things, because I know some people have spent thousands of dollars for like this crazy booth and stuff, and they're doing really good. And then I have a friend who's still on a USB microphone. He's still under the blankets, but he still gets an insane amount of views on his little things on YouTube. And honestly, that's also great because it also gets him recognition. So the whole point is use the amount of money you have to gain recognition, and that's essentially what's going to lend you roles. Because if someone sees you and they're like, "Ooh, I like this performance," regardless if it was a USB microphone, XLR, etc., then it was good. you're probably going to get booked, and you got the eye of some casting director.
What made you decide to seek out representation from an agent?
When I first started as a voice actor, and I feel like a lot of people can agree with me, one of the main first goals, like the first level, like you level up, is to get an agent. That takes a long time. And my mind was, wait, if an agency is technically like a business, this is really business sided, but if it's like a business, then I have to be able to prove that I'm profitable to them. So by doing that, I had to prove that I could book roles, that I could deliver a quality performance in a short amount of time, prove that you're worth it. The reason why I wanted to search representation is because I live in Montreal, which has indie video games. Ubisoft also is based here. I was like, I'm going to use online platforms to prove to the local town agencies that I could book. And because of that, now I could, instead of relying on my home studio and stuff, I get the blessing to go to the studio and then record or do some workshops, or recently I'm getting into motion capture too, which I never thought I was going to get into. For me, at least, I realized I'm perfectly positioned for video games, so why not?
Tell me more about the motion capture experience.
Motion capture was something I never really thought I was going to do. It's just that as growing up, I have done like martial arts and stuff like that. My agent, during our interview, when I first got into the agency, they're like, "Do you want to do motion capture?" My eyes went, "Yes." Yes, okay. And then I showed them videos and they're like, okay, yeah, well, we see potential. We'll get you on some stuff. And I was like, okay, we'll see what happens from there. And then I've been taking the workshops and I'm like, whoa, wait, I'm a voice actor. Hold on. What am I doing here? Because of that, I met some really cool people. And again, this applies to everything I've done online. I met some friends that feel close to me. And again, we get to play off each other. And that's always great because I love having a performance. I love performing with my friend. No better feeling than calling my friend stupid on stage going, "You betrayed me."
Tell me some of your short-term and long-term goals with voice acting.
I really want to get my first professional gig, maybe get it like a union gig. Because as I said, I recently went and got representation. And my long-term goal is I definitely want to be able to do this most of the time when I'm free. If my friends are not in the game or something, I can't play with them, I'll be like, okay, I'll just do voice acting and audition whenever I can. Because it'd be funny if I told my friends, the character you're playing, that's me right there. You're playing me. And they're going to be like, no, I don't want to play this guy anymore. That'd be funny.
What kind of games have you voiced in, indie games?
I'm working on a visual novel right now, but the game that got me on the map, I guess you could say, it's a horror game, and it put me on the map because it was featured at a event in Prague. And because of that, people were reaching out to me going, "Yo, you voiced in this game? Cool. We want you in it." The reason why cold calling works is because 90% of the time, the game developers, they don't have voice actors or musicians ready. Right? So don't be afraid to cold call. Take that chance, first of all. Second of all, they're like, we need a voice actor, some kind of teenager voice, which I fit the niche in. And then that's essentially how I got some of the paid gigs I've gotten. And that's how I've been able to fund some of my stuff, even though I started off with $200.
Where else have you found opportunities for projects to audition for? And then what type of characters do you usually go for?
There's cold calling and there is casting call club and a bunch of pay to play, a bunch of free. When I first started and when I didn't really have any of this, like I didn't have a headshot, I didn't have a demo reel, etc. I keep saying that networking is really important. My friends have gotten me connections to people that were making games, and because of that, it snowballs. So my friend refers me to a game guy. The game guy is like, "Oh, this guy was good." Okay, he refers me to his friend who's also a game guy. And then it snowballs from there and it continues going, right? And that's how I've gotten like some private auditions without being in a talent roster, because that's also important to be on a talent roster, like on Twitter and stuff like that. When it comes to characters I normally go for, it's the younger characters. Whenever there's like a kid role, a young teen voice, that's me. 90% of the time they end up being really dumb, which that's interesting. Regardless, I'm getting my work and I know the niche I fit in, right? So I remember actually I submitted my first demo to a game studio here. They got back to me. They said, "We like your voice. The problem is that you're trying too hard to be something you're not." Because I put on this really muscular voice. So this is another piece of advice. Put your ego aside. Fit the niche you can. You have your own voice and you fit into this different thing, right? So as much as I want to be this big buff guy with 2 machine guns shooting at people, right? I have to admit that I can't. I have to be that comic relief character that all the fans are going to laugh at and they're going to be like, "He's so cute. He's so silly." And I take pride in that. Why? Because it's something that I can do. So put your ego aside, realize what you can do as a person, as a voice actor, and go, yeah, you know what? I'm going to pride myself on that and I'm going to ride that till the end.
How did you go about getting your demo reel? What was that process like for you?
I made a friend. She makes music and super talented, by the way. She knows how to mix audio. And I said to myself, my old demo reel was good. It's just I didn't fit my niche. So I'm gonna write a new one that fits my niche and that fits the talent and stuff that I pride myself on. So I rewrote my demo reel. Then after I sent it to her, where she essentially did the audio mixing and all the sound stuff. So that came to no cost to me. Even though it's not a professionally made demo, I still submitted it. In Montreal, we have Otakuthon, which is a anime convention here. One of our guests was Caitlin Gold, I believe. And I remember I talked to her personally, and she told me, even though you don't have a professional made demo, it doesn't hurt to send what materials you have to a talent agency, because you have to put yourself on the map somehow. So going, oh, it's not professionally made. Oh, I don't have this yet. Sending what you had and what you think was really good to a talent agency, they're not going to eat you. They're going to look at it maybe for 5 seconds and then see if they need the voice. Another thing to be careful of is look at the roster. I talked about voice niches before. I applied to my talent roster because they didn't have a teenager voice or didn't have a younger style voice. They needed a hole to be filled, and I was there to fill it essentially, right? I sent my materials, I sent my portfolio, I sent my website, I sent my demo reel. I was not expecting them to get back to me, but I remember I had a math exam that day. I was walking home on the bus going, oh man, I failed that exam. I failed it so easy. I opened my emails. I go, what? I said, yes. And then the best part is they were like, we want a Zoom meeting with you tomorrow. And I was like, okay, Zoom meeting. That's crazy. I got on, and I remember I got home that day, completely forgot about my math exam. And then I was just all smiles and giggles.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the
Thank you.
conversation.